Hi, Ray.
Hello, Francis. How are you? I just went through a 45-minute ordeal getting my UGA email back so I could open up the Zoom meeting. Just in time.
Oh,
Look, there was a tech working with me for the last 45 minutes.
oh,
Oh no.
I thought I was going to miss it.
Oh no. Well, we would have waited. We were just chatting. So, Ray, this is Scott Trost.
Hello,
hey,
Scott.
hey,
This is
Ray.
Ray Paolino.
Ray, we're gonna have a great conversation because you're gonna at some point mention your time in Oklahoma,
Yes, sure.
and I'm going to, of course, tell you that I am originally from Oklahoma City and have several, both my parents and my brother graduates from the University of Oklahoma where you worked. So we're
Wow.
we're gonna have a great Oklahoma conversation.
Well, I was just there a couple of months ago. They had the students that I worked with for 10 years, they all kind of gathered and they were going to have a reunion
Yeah.
of those 10 years. And I was the more prominent person who was teaching them. So they invited me back and it was a great
Oh,
time to
oh,
be in Norman and see my middle-aged students,
oh, that,
some
yeah.
getting more than middle-aged. So,
That's a little sobering, isn't it? When they grow up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So, Ray, where are you
yeah,
now?
where?
Where are you now? Are you
I'm
at
still
home?
here in Athens.
Okay.
Francis, I officially retired a year ago, and which was fine with me. But I came up with some health issues. The major one that is a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, but it's not affecting me in any great matter right now. I've having little short-term memory losses for the past 6, 7, 8 years. Um, and I've decided not to take the medication that they have for it because it limits your physical life. So I can't run, I can't play, I can't ride my bike, and so I'm not going to give up those things. Anyway, but I retired happily after 26 years in the department.
Ray,
Wow.
uh, I have to say, you're the first person that's used the A word, the Alzheimer's,
Uh-huh.
in a way that's like, okay, I'm just going to use it. I'm just going to own it, and that must be quite a moment for you to just face that head on, like it sounds like you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And my family's great with it. And anybody who asks me, if I have a relationship with the person, I'd say yeah, at some point. But it's affected my ability to memorize dialogue. I have a solo show I developed a couple of years ago based on before I got the actual diagnosis of Alzheimer's, but based on health, based on various surgeries I've had over the years, various health crises, yet still coming back and still trying to remain a vital physical presence, which has been my goal since I was 20. So, so I had to give up basketball because there's a lot of knocking around, but I do play racquetball and I bike 12 miles about 4 or 5 times a week, and I'll play racquetball by myself, which is really hard to do. But it's the responses that are important to me. Once I get in that cube of the racquetball court, I have to move twice as fast as if I were playing with somebody else because I'm defending and I'm trying to beat myself and yet not beat myself. So it's great. It's keeping my body moving in all kinds of different directions, and I stay very physically active. So that's kind of my plan towards health, and a lot of that is worked out through my solo show. My solo show is called uh, "Staring at and Spitting Down the Abyss."
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's a lot of it is some certain monumentous family moments in my history, and of course, continually going through my dedication to maintaining a vibrant physical and mental life. as well. So that's
I'm
kind
I'm,
of what.
I'm so curious, Ray, because again, I'm thinking that we have some similarities. It sounds like you've had a fairly athletic life.
Yes.
Did you play lots of sports when you were younger?
Yes.
Tell me some of the sports you played.
Oh, baseball, basketball, touch football, street hockey, not soccer, and tennis later. Um, Once I got out of college, during college, I played a little bit of some tennis, but essentially basketball and bike riding is what I don't play basketball anymore. Bike riding and racquetball, I'm hanging on to.
It,
I
it,
love that you're just like kicking it in the face and saying it will not
Yes.
beat me. I'm just going to take hold of it. And, I
Well,
always tell my students to, when you're fearful, run into it. When there's a fire, which is really awful advice, but when there's a fire, run into the fire. I mean, not in real life, but you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I love that you're doing that.
Well,
It's
I'm facing it. I know I'm never going to beat it, but
right.
I'm going to hang on as long as I can. I'm going to be Muhammad Ali as long as I can and
Yeah.
stay on my feet and go 25 rounds or 435 rounds if I need to be. So I don't want to put this machine down,
Right.
but I
at this
uh,
age, Ray, I think we're all realizing we're mortal one way or another.
sure.
So none of us get out of jail free card. We're all at some point facing that inevitability in one
Yeah,
way, in
yeah.
whatever way it presents
Right.
itself.
And I want to face it with a fair balance, and I'm not going to be totally Pollyanna idealistic about it.
Yeah.
And it is a possibility that, oh, that I may not go into that crazy dark night. Um, but my new
Wife and kids as well. Oh, oh no, maybe we were cut off. Scott, are you back?
I'm back. We were
Okay.
cut off a little bit. I
So
was
I wanted to touch when you said about the sports that you studied. Um, I want to go back to when you first got involved in theatre because you've had such a lifelong career of theatre. I mean, your resume, you've been off Broadway, you've written shows, you've been, numerous publications, and you've been the chair of many departments as well as performed numerous times. We were in a show together. We
Yes,
were
we were, and you grabbed
he was
my
my
nuts.
tattoo, and I was Elmire, and he pinned me down on a table, as you do in tattoo. It's one of my favorite plays of all time. So tell us about when you first got involved in theatre. Like, what age were you, and how you got
Um,
involved?
Yeah, sure. I was in junior high school, and which is seventh, eighth, and ninth grades, and I got involved in two of the class plays over the eighth and ninth grade,
where,
and then I went to high school and I turned
where'd you
into
where'd you grow up, Ray?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay, Rhode Island. So
Then I in high school became, just me not going to school, essentially. Um, and So then I started college at the University of Rhode Island, which is not far. You're never far away from anything in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
So, and I became a theater major there. As I had been doing some plays in the college and became a theater major. Um, and I fell in with a group that were. This was the time of the Open Theater and the Manhattan Project. And we had this great theater festival in Rhode Island over the course of a month, in which many of those New York groups and California groups came, and it was funded by the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. And we saw the Manhattan Project, we saw the Open Theater, we saw Burning City Theater, all of these alternative type people, mimes, clowns, and it was very inspiring. And I had just, in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I had dinner with my former professor there. She came to the performance I did in Providence, and she created a group that was kind of based upon the open theater and the elements of what the Manhattan Project was doing. A lot of improvisations. We developed many shows that were written, and it was a fabulous experience. Several of them we took on tour while we were students throughout New England, and it was a wonderful way to work. As well as some of the plays we did do in college were scripted. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Ted is one of them I remember, and but most of them were newish, and there was a small cadre of playwrights off campus that were older than us, and Tom Griffith was a
Oh,
respected playwright. At some point, he had a kind of a hit on Broadway in the 80s. So after that, I finally got out of the university and moved to New York, and settled on the Lower East Side, and in a building in a block where it's the edge of Little Italy. I didn't really know I was in Little Italy, but that's where I happened to land, and it was a good place to be. So, and then I, went to auditions and started getting cast in places. And At some point, I met my wife, and we got serious, and we were living together. We got a nice large apartment on the Upper West Side on 108th Street.
wow.
Um, and we decided that we were going to start a family, which we did, and got married, of course. Um, and the seminal story I tell is I'm at an audition at the Equity Library Theater. I don't know if you know where that is, Scott. ELT. I don't even know if it's still in existence, but it was a very good springboard to be seen in at the ELT. And again, hundreds of guys my age well, you go early in the morning, you sign up, and you go there at 6:30 to 7 o'clock, and there's a paper, and you sign up, and oh, great, you're number 25. That's good, instead of number 250. And so then you come back, and the lobby is filled with people. And next to me was a guy my age, and he had his son with him, a 4-year-old, roughly. And I'm going, okay, he's got his son because the kid is too young to get into the public schools. The wife is working, and so he's taking his kid to auditions. And I just went, I can't do that. And I think at this time, Pat may have been pregnant. We might have known at that point. It's a long time ago, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But I said, I can't. I know I can do things, and I know people will want me to do things, but it's at the best, it's a sporadic life. At best, the dream is, unattainable. No one you can't really think about the dream.
Yeah.
So what are our lives going to be like? What is my child going to be like sitting here in a lobby while Pat is working and I'm trying to get it cast in a show?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so that was the decision to go to grad school.
Yeah.
So that sound familiar to you, Scott? Is that?
Oh, it sounds way too familiar, Ray. Uh, yeah, same story. I think for all of us who have children and have that instinct to make sure their lives have all the opportunities that we wished our lives had had, we
Yeah.
face that same dilemma, which is you can't have that lifestyle and raise your children the way you need to. And so you have to make other choices, and that is, and you're glad you do, in as it goes along. I assume you're feeling like you're blessed with the children you have, and the family that you made, and those choices that led to some really interesting, amazing things. I also want to hear from you, Ray, because you've embraced an artistic lifestyle, regardless of what other things you were having to do in order to support a family and be a good father and a good husband. Can you talk about that? Because that's something that a lot of younger actors that I work with, they have this urge towards fame and accolades, but I keep talking to them about this life of creativity and art that is really what inspires me, and what I when I see other people like yourself, I think is what really we're hoping our students will find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just that you got to be open and, and you got to connect. Those are the house doesn't mean shit, and the money doesn't mean shit, and the car you drive doesn't mean shit. It's the bonds that you form both within yourself. I've made some bonds with to myself as well, and to not just the people you love, but to those other humans you encounter. And you take something away from every one of those encounters. That's where the magic is. You don't have to be an artist to do that. But if you really listen to somebody and try to get to know them, it's worthwhile. It's a good use of your time. So, and if you get more knowledge about yourself, that's great too. And still, I still feel like I can grow even at this point. And I'm opening myself up to. I'm just reading a book about some monk. Um, it's called A Flame. It's a relatively new novel that came out. It's not really a novel. It's his account of hanging out at a monastery on the cliffs of Big Sur. Um, and the simplicity of that kind of life, and just those small moments that occur that fill me with surprise or wonder. And it's just a small, simple thing, it could be a worm walking around the edge of my patio that I'm going to get transfixed by.
I'm also curious to hear your experience. When I think back on highlight moments in my acting career, it's often not any professional work. It's community theater in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Just moments that you go, oh my God, I had that moment, and I feel so enriched by it, and it's making my if I'm making a list of my top 10 acting moments, it's there. I don't think there's a single professional job on that top 10. I'm curious about your experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They can come at any point. Um, and it's just when I guess I feel like I'm there to be played, like the wind is going through the instrument and it's not me. Um, and I'm not in control, but I'm not out of control. So those are very enlightening and joyous moments to have. Those unexpected things that occur organically. Once you lay out the pattern of the performance, which is physical, and internal and vocal as well, you are free to have those things kind of go through you unexpectedly. And that's not just on the stage. That's in my life as well.
I'm so glad you're bringing up the life aspect, because so many of my students, when they talk about finding the art through the instruction, they're also talking about finding their life through the instruction. And that makes it much more gratifying for me as a teacher to see that it's not just I'm becoming a better actor, but I'm becoming a better person. Can you talk about that with your own students?
Um, it's hard to waste the time in class to do that. I'm loving having this conversation now. But you gotta get, you gotta get through the curriculum. You gotta do things, we gotta get the scene up, or let's get physicalized, let's learn this technique. So occasionally, I try to drop a germ like that now and then, a seed. Um, but I'm not sure they're focused enough to want to be there.
It's almost like it's a secondary effect that they realize later and then will say to me, "Oh, by the way, while I was learning to act, I also realized what an amazing thing this was for my own personal life." Have you had that experience as well?
Yeah, I don't hear that much. And I don't hear it when it happens, but I might hear it a couple of years later from the
Yeah.
person. You know?
I'm curious. When I was reading through all the amazing things you've done, were there particular techniques of acting that you were learning, or things that when you were learning them feel like they were more important to you for your own work and also then for your teaching?
Yeah, I did study a lot in New York. I really settled strongly with Madeline Sherwood, and was with her class for several years. Um, and she's out of the actor's studio, and um, so I kind of got involved. I got involved in a production of Rip Torn's Hamlet through her as well, and I was a big fan of his anyway. So and I had a small role um, in the show, but Geraldine Page was in it as
Mm.
Ophelia, and Rip Torn, and I'm like going, yeah. um, and she was off stage a lot too as Gertrude, and I had a lot of talks with her as well. So it was just kind of nice to be in that kind of company. Um, and and with the instruction I was working on with Madeline, there's a lot of internal work
Mm.
there, and it's not, it's not what TV thinks it is, or people who haven't been in the class think it is. It's not like wrenching your guts out or anything like that. That's just a bunch of bullshit. But it's ways of doing things
Yeah.
that can lead inward for you.
Yeah.
Uh, and Francis, we might have done an exercise where we made a drawing in class. Um, I made maybe
Yeah, probably. What was the exercise?
um, I would have the students lie down, close their eyes, and take them through an imaginary meadow or something, and then and then there's a hole in the ground, and down there is a chamber, and there are four chambers, and you go to the chamber and you open each. One is life, one is love, one is family. No, one is home, or something like that. And after you go, takes like 45 minutes, and then I get you back up and open your eyes, and then you draw what you saw.
I think we did do something like
I
that.
give you a
There
crayon.
might have been some chambers that I didn't want to go into, though. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I stopped before I went down the hole, Francis.
Not doing that. Yeah, yeah. The
so
imagination work.
yeah, and it's very
Yeah,
instinctual. You don't know what the
it is.
hell you're going to put on the drawing, what you saw. Like, holy shit, I saw that, and it's
Yeah,
organic and it's surprising most of the time, 90% of the time. That it's not like, oh, me on a stage, there's me on
right.
the stage, getting applause. I get one of those every couple of years. But it's something else, something more mystical, more primal,
Yeah.
core, more core. And then they go
Did
away.
you? I have a question about teaching. Do you feel from the beginning of the time that you started teaching to to when you retired that students changed in the way they wanted to study performance. What I mean by that is, were they more fame driven towards the end? And so you're talking about, instincts and like the imagination work and everything. That's what I studied, like all of that stuff. But now young people sometimes want to just go for the fame. Did you find that with students or not really? Like maybe, like
Um,
you said, there was like one in every class.
yeah, there's always some,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like the numbers on that went up. It's stable. There's dreamy eyed. There's you know, I don't know what their parents might have told them or other teachers might have told them, but you got to work hard. And those are the people I'm interested in. But they're going to work hard and put themselves. Sometimes we do things where we're all sweaty after the end of this exercise. We're all working. You know, so. So no, I mean there is that idealism, but those people either drop out at some point or click and go, oh, it's not about that. It's
Yeah.
about expressing something real, that something that could be real for me. So so I don't think there's a drop off in the commitment to the work.
So you were talking about the Shakespeare show. Was classical works one of your loves, or do you have particular genres of theatre that you love the most?
Um, I love Shakespeare.
I
Um,
do
and
too. I do too.
and just the last several years I had been going to Prague Shakespeare, working there. Um, and in my solo show, there's a terrible story which really happened. Um, and I was playing Cardinal Wolsey in Henry VI, Part Two, and I'm in the middle of a major speech, middle of a line.
Go on.
No.
And all the
In
kingdoms
Prague on the stage?
in front of a full audience, yes. And had Henry had his kingdom, nothing. And I describe it in detail in my show, but no, nobody
No.
could help me. Nobody could help me. There were some younger people. There are kind of a student. We also teach some of the cast while we're there. So I teach workshops, and then I'm in the productions. So we have a lot of mature members of the company, and I walked off. I mean, I walked off, and I went in the wings, and I just.
So
I
what happened?
mean,
What
nobody
happened
can
to the
help
show?
me.
They ended the show?
No, there was a long silence. I walked off and someone started speaking at some point. I wanted to die. I was talking about the floors of the stage and the wings opening up, and I'm going down. I'm going down into the
You're going down to the
15th
chambers.
century Prague
What's in
with
the
all the
chamber?
bones and the pogroms and
Oh
all
my
the
God.
people who were eliminated. And I'm gonna join them. It was terrible, terrible.
Oh my God.
Uh, so.
Oh
So
my
that's a memory. That was a memory problem. The another year at Prague, I did the same thing. I was playing Desdemona's father, and I was trying to end the scene. We have to go see. There's a big opening first scene. Oh, everybody coming on and all this trouble, and we're gonna go see the king. And I forgot. Like I stood there, and I think that it was the artistic director of the company who was playing uh, Iago. Let's go
God.
to the king. We're going to the king.
Oh my gosh, thank
No.
God.
So that was the first notice of dropping. I mean, really just dropping. Like
Yeah.
the abyss was there. There's no climbing out. Um,
Well, thank goodness you were in Prague. Maybe half of them didn't know what was going on. Maybe.
well, there's somebody. At least in the first instance, we all got off stage, so that worked out. And when I walked off, it was horrible. It was a nightmare. I mean, it was
Do you
worse than a.
still go back?
No, I'm no, I'm not.
But how can you tell us a little bit about how you created that project, that relationship with
I want to,
you
yeah, yeah. She's not
going?
asking for anybody other than you, than Francis and I, to figure out how we can get to Prague also.
I mean, pretty much. I
Yeah,
mean, can I go? I'd
yeah,
love to
right.
teach Shakespeare.
Well, I mean, send your stuff. And Scott, are you teaching
I'm,
also?
I'm teaching all over the world, and Ray, I want to hear you say the same thing, which is if you reach out to enough people, someone's going to say yes. Has that been your experience?
Well, yeah, sometimes. But actually, the artistic director came here to Athens. He came to UGA because his daughter was a
Oh,
student here, and he
right.
wanted to check out the theater department. So I hosted him, and we ate and drank and talked for a couple of days, and um, he says, "Yeah, send me your headshot and resume," and I was in the company. Of course, with his eye towards gathering more students because they need income,
Right.
and the more students you bring in, and they do bring a lot of students in the summer.
Well,
But
Ray,
they,
put me up, Ray.
yeah, so look into it.
But Ray,
Um,
to talk about that with the relationship thing,
Yes.
because I think that is something that younger people, if they understand that most of the work comes from the meal you had and the talks you had with that. I mean, and the relationship you developed.
Yes.
Can you talk about that as far as what that's meant for you, just to be engaged with other people, and that is what leads to the opportunities that you've had.
yeah, once I got into academia, um, all of my contacts were academics, so which is great. I
Yeah.
went to conferences. I edited the Southern Theater magazine for about 7 years. I wrote a lot of columns and articles for that, which I love doing, and so there's and I was part of KC for 20 years, uh, going all over the country I want to say, respond to productions. And I was chair of playwriting in this region. I was chair of playwriting in Region 6 when I was in Oklahoma. So you just kind of develop relationships with people. I've let all those relationships kind of fall away over the last couple of decades because I just didn't want to be that involved anymore. Um, and it was very time consuming to be.
It's a lot of work just to go
It
for
really
one
is.
conference.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I was recruiting for grad students also, so there's all that travel as well. Um, but now I've let all those contacts kind of fall away. I'm not like staying in touch. Oh, this so and so. I see something somewhere, and then oh yeah, yeah, that's right. He's there, she's there, blah blah. But I'm not really out there anymore, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be. Um, but if you tell your students, you got to develop contacts. Even when even if you go to Chicago, start to you got to know some former students of yours that are in Chicago because they're going to help you, and they will, or in
Yeah.
New York, or Los Angeles. So it's all about building that support group around you. We have a bunch of Georgia kids now.
Mm.
They brought an original show to New York last year, and it was a musical, and they produced it. And they're sticking together. I mean, they're not always together, but they're up there and they're doing stuff. They're creating their own things. Colin wrote the music and the book, and I think he played the lead in that show. I didn't go to New York to see it, but that's what you have to do. Manhattan Theater Club arose from a couple of people, as
Right.
did all those off-Broadway theaters. They just um, got together and said, let's start doing something because we're tired of this old crap. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Tired of waiting for someone to hire you,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So,
Sitting
so
around
now,
saying no one will hire me, but you can hire yourself. Get with
yeah,
some people and put on some shows. Yeah.
yep, And it's a good way to go. It
Yeah.
really is. When you go out with your cup in your hand, I'm 143 on the audition list.
Yeah.
You know, how much of an impression can you make under those conditions? Uh, so yeah, and I used to teach a course on networking and all that, for the seniors.
So smart.
How to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, saying what you want, brief cover letter, one page. You
Yeah.
know, I'd like to be an intern at the Manhattan Theater Club, something like that. Uh, and because they're starry-eyed and young, and
Yeah.
so it's a hard life.
Can I go back to the Shakespeare thing because I have to confess that Shakespeare has not been my thing, and both you guys are sitting there and you're doing.
Oh,
I want to
love
hear.
Shakespeare.
I want to hear if you, Ray, if you could just express in whatever way it comes out, what is it about that man and his plays and performing in them that gives you clearly the love that you're expressing about that experience. Could you just talk about that and what?
Yeah, and Francis, you like Shakespeare too, right?
I love Shakespeare.
Yeah.
We're two out of 1,000 people that love it. I love it more. I love it more than contemporary scripts. I could hear Shakespeare all day. I wish people still spoke like that, to be
If
honest
they
with you.
ever did,
Yeah, I love
except on the stage.
not just Shakespeare though, but the same time period.
Yeah.
So we just read A Woman Killed with Kindness in my period stars class, and it was the 1600s, around that time, and just the way they spoke was just absolutely beautiful to me. Just the language.
Yeah. What attracts me to him is he deals with the world. I mean, he's just what in the hell? He's got philosophy, he's got a life, he's got a family, he's got politics, he's got war, he's got peace, he's got the good, he's got the bad, the kind, the victims, the world's greatest uh, pen to put those words on a page.
Mm.
So it's to me, it's like on the level with opera, which is sung, but it's high tragic, and we still love going. The Metropolitan Opera is now bringing back the live from the Mets to Athens. They deserted us. Well, they didn't desert us. The local cinema stopped doing it because they weren't making money, probably. But the last one we went to is in a big new cinema, and the place was packed. We went to see Aida. So um, it's high stakes. That's what Shakespeare is. It's just high as you can get. Um, and it's people's lives on the line. People, not just that, their own moral sense. They're like, who I am is online.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was a game changer too. He pushed, like you said, um, touching on politics. People think he was this man from hundreds of years ago, and why should we study him? I mean, the amount of phrases that we use that Shakespeare wrote, or maybe he stole them, but he wrote, and then also he was a game changer. I mean, he really pushed us to have discussions about certain things. I mean, look at Othello. It's a play about race.
Yeah,
He turned the mirror on audiences and said, "Are you a Iago? Are you a Othello? Are you a Desdemona?" And also they say that Shakespeare was one of the first people. He was the first one to give us a close up, because when you have those speeches, the audience had to lean in and really focus. And so he was one of the first people to actually have a close up where we really just
yeah,
pulled in and took in these very small nuances. So when people throw Shakespeare aside, it really is very influential on what we study today. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm really into Shakespeare.
Sure. And he has the formality of court and political language, but
Yeah,
he's also got the touch of the common man.
yeah,
Where certain with obviously some of the lower type characters, but there are still speeches in Macbeth and Hamlet where it's not in verse, and more casual language, um, and it's very intimate at times, extremely intimate. It's in two-person scenes and especially in soliloquies,
Yeah.
where that character is unveiling something when Macbeth says he's going to do this, uh, or Hamlet says, "Why can't I do this?" Um, so it brought a verisimilitude to that particular period, and of course there were people before him
Mhm.
as well, and I can't remember that other playwright that wrote the tragedies as well.
Well,
Oh,
he
Skipping.
stole. Like Romeo and Juliet. That was a stolen story that he kind of pulled and added.
Right,
Like the
sure,
Capulet, the Capulet and Montague. That was the original play, and then he
uh,
took that and moved it. And then also Hamlet. Hamlet was written by an Irish playwright, but it wasn't a psychological play. So it was just the story of Hamlet, and then he made it into a something psychological.
yeah, yeah.
So he stole a lot of them.
Ray, do you find with your American actors that the language is a barrier for them with the Shakespeare?
No, they need to work on it, and most of them do and get there.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. We have a lot of great American Shakespeare actors. So yeah, Sam Waterston was with the Public Theater for a long time, did Hamlet and Much Ado. Um, so yes, we have American actors who can handle the language. Sure. And sometimes the Brits can go a little too flourishy, and
Yeah,
we rely on that vocal tricks more than the intent of what's.
yeah.
But no, I Shakespeare's great. But for years we were taking students to London. George and I were taking, and we'd always go to the New Globe and see stuff, and it's just exciting. It's exciting as hell. And they're there to make you know that they're there. Those actors they're not pretending there isn't an audience. That's for sure. They are working at the audience. The audience is part of it. They look at them, they talk to them, they accept them, they know they're there. It's not like the vacuum of a soliloquy necessarily. Even a
Yeah,
soliloquy can be brought out. What do you guys think? Sure. So
yeah. More of an exchange between the audience and the
yeah,
actors. Yeah.
sure, sure.
Do you have a favorite Shakespearean role that you've played? You've probably played a number. Is there one that you've
Um,
enjoyed the most?
I played Benedict. I really like that a lot.
Why? Why is that one?
Well, he has such a turn. He goes from a woman hater to I'm in love, So there's a long curve for him, and
Mm.
it's funny. And there he can play morose, he can play angry, he can play the puppy dog lover eventually, uh, and it ends in such joy and reconciliation. So I've enjoyed playing that. I've done Friar Lawrence. Uh, what else? Well, anyway, stuff I did at Prague. So I've directed 24 Shakespeare productions.
Wow.
So I love them. I would do one every summer on no budget. You weren't there at the time, but in the summers I would do a Shakespeare short semester and perform it in the Cellar Theater and in the Founder's Garden. I don't know if you ever saw that space.
Yeah.
It's just up the hill from our building, and it's a nice little garden. I would do it outdoors. And for the past 15 years, I would take, I was doing a semester in Italy since 2007, 2008, where I take a group of students during May semester. It's a short semester of 4 weeks. And we'd rehearse and put on a full-length Shakespeare and put it into the
Wow.
historical Teatro Signorelli in Cortona. It's a 18th century theater, big, beautiful theater inside, boxes and all that, on the sides. And we'd do it for free for the Cortona community. And I'd take a band of students, and most of them are women, and 2 or 3 were men, and so be it. And we would put that up in 3.5 weeks.
Wow.
And we
Wow.
worked all
You've
day.
done
I
a, you've
worked all
done a
day.
lot of traveling in
Yeah,
your
oh, yeah. In fact, so we're actually in the market to buy an apartment in Cortona pretty soon, it looks like. Our daughter got married there 2 years ago at the end of my semester. So the whole wedding was in Cortona. It's a beautiful town if you ever get to Italy. If you
Oh, well,
saw
now you've just told me you're moving there, Ray. I'll be coming.
if you saw Under the Tuscan Sun with
Yes.
the movie based on Francis May's book, Who Lives in Cortona. Well, Under the Tuscan Sun was filmed in Cortona as well. And so you get a good look at the town there. It's a real gem. It's not like
Oh,
super
w
crowded or anything like that.
Scott and I will get a good look at it when we come and visit you.
Oh yeah. Get the guest room ready, Ray. We're on
If
our
there's no guest room, we'll sleep on the balcony. It's fine.
It's a
way.
small apartment.
It's
Um,
fine.
We can find accommodations. Don't worry about it.
but
Ray,
I'll take it everywhere in Tuscany, and so that's something we're never going to stop doing. And from Tuscany, we take trips
yeah.
to various other places in Italy.
Ray,
We would part of the program was we would take the students to a vineyard where they had a whole tasting set up for us and a buffet after the tasting, and then you could order
Goodness.
wine if you wanted to. And of course, I always order wine to bring home. And we would go to Florence for the Uffizi Gallery and the Accademia where Michelangelo's David is,
Wow.
and yeah, and the Duomo, and we would also go to Rome for a day or overnight to Rome, where we would go to the Vatican and the Vatican Museum and various other places in Rome. So I would guide them through Rome and guide them through Florence, and sometimes we went to Siena instead of something else. So it
Oh,
was a very cultural trip. We all ate together,
oh.
just great. It's just great.
Ray, one of the themes that I'm hearing from your conversation is you almost always talk about a group of actors together
Mm.
rather than you as an individual. I do Francis, I like is asking about changes in our culture or in the students, the actors that we work with, and I have noticed that with all the emphasis on social media and sort of creating being your self creator, that I have more students now that are just thinking about what they create. And I think so much of the genius of what we've seen in our lives, it comes from a group, not an individual.
Yeah.
Could you talk more about that? Because I do think that's an important thing for actors to understand, that it's it is clearly a collaborative art form, and the greatest art comes from great collaborations.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, look at Quentin Tarantino. He uses many of the same people in his movies because they share the same language, whatever that is. Um, and but particularly in the theater because it's live and you're there a lot.
Mm.
Movies are made a totally different way. Um, Everybody shows up at the theater to work. And so building those bonds and learning, I mean, I just can't imagine not a production that I was in, not taking something away from that from other people. I just can't imagine I didn't change myself as a result of working with these other people. It's not a conscious change, but I'm certainly influenced by that encounter. Something new has come into me working with this group of 20 people at Prague. So there's you walk in and when you walk out, you're different in some way by this encounter with these other new people. But a steady group, that's the best thing
Yeah.
that
I'd
could
like to
happen.
touch on that though, that I think one thing that has, especially the experiences that I've had acting and directing, is that if you're an actor and you can walk in and work with these 20 people, what can you learn from them? Right? So it's almost like, what skills do they have that you don't have? And what can they teach you? And I think that's really important for actors to do. Like, what are they doing? Oh, I've never done that before. Maybe I can learn something from them. And then that bond is even stronger rather than I'm going to go in and just say my lines and think about me. Do
Yeah.
you feel that that's been successful for you? Like you've gone in and kind of taken in what they can teach you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. And I'm always looking for more clarity. And
Mm,
when I see that in another act, I'm going, yes, that's
yeah.
more specific, rather than a little generalized, so I get, and someone's commitment also might impress me, like, damn it, yes, hell yeah, no fear, no fear, no holding back. So I do get influenced and impressed and knock my own head on the side now and then and go, yeah, shit, you know, I put that in my bag.
What
Yeah.
what I'm impressed about, Ray, is not only are you doing that, but you're also looking for collaborative opportunities for that group so that your mind is not just thinking, what can I learn from them? You're thinking, what can I do with them? What can I do with this? So you're teaching a class in Georgia, and all of a sudden you're going, I want to take this group and I want to take them to Italy and I want to do a play there in a theater. So you're saying, hey, I got a group, let's do something together. Uh,
Yeah.
and that I think is the strength that I see in much of your work is you're always thinking, what can I do with this group that we can create something special with?
Yeah. Yeah, and most of the time with the Cortona group, they're not that experienced as the people that we have on our main
Mm.
stage regularly. Some of them are not even might not even be a major, or maybe have not been in a play before, which is fine. Um, so it's and then when it just by the end, like the last one we did, the director of the program in Cortona, Chris Robinson, who's been there forever, just said this production, it just really hit him for some reason. I don't think it was anything. It was all women. In fact, we had no men that that time.
That's why. Okay.
It was it was it was it was Midsummer Night's Dream, of course. That's what.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, and uh, and we did it with I think eight actresses, and the dance department came this time for the first time, and they integrated two dance pieces within the Midsummer Night's Dream.
oh,
It worked out.
nice.
It worked out beautifully in that respect, And Chris was really uh, it's just like this was really something. It was I'd never seen something like this before. Um, and they just they're young people. It came out of them, and they gave in fully to what was happening in this large 18th century Italian classical theater. So it just kind of giving people an experience like that who
Yeah.
probably might never do that again as well, because they're not all committed theater majors. They're just sometimes they're not, and they're going on to other things. But some of the parents came, people, if the usually half the parents come sometimes at the end of the semester to pick up their kids or see them there. So that's always good. Uh, so, but it's just, even though it's not that many people see it, but it happened, and
What an amazing experience
it
that they'll
happened,
never forget.
and and to them, I'm saying it happened in you, it happened in you, it happened inside you,
Oh my
and it
gosh,
came out of you.
you're making me
I'm sitting in the audience watching. You guys did this, so
oh,
it empowers them in some way, in for the non-theater students. It gives them some cachet, some kind of identity, that they've done something. And they went to a foreign country to do it and eat foreign food, although there's nothing wrong with Italian food. But it's not the food they might be used to. Although these days there's so many exceptions to the menu now. It's like everyone's got a special.
you have inspired so many people, Ray. You have probably changed so many lives that you are just unaware of in your oh, I'm getting emotional. In your teaching.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So Francis, how long have you been working where you are now?
All right.
You,
Before Francis answers that question, Ray, I just have to make an observation that um, I would love for you to sit with what Francis just said to you.
No, he's a Meisner teacher, so here we go.
You, I can see that it's a little, it, you're changing the subject very quickly from
from me.
yeah, and I understand, and it's so interesting. I think all of us are a little bit. We're all shy. I think that's why we went into acting, is because it's a little bit hard for us to just be ourselves. But I want to pile on with what Francis just said. You have changed people's lives, right? Even if, like you said, just for a moment in time. But what a magical and amazing thing that is to experience for yourself, but also to help other people experience. And for those families that saw those performances, that will live with that family for the rest of their lives. They're still talking about when they came to Italy and saw their son or their daughter performing that, and seeing them up on stage and how proud they were. So let's 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 allow ourselves to celebrate Ray's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we we don't want to go too fast past that, because that is
Yeah.
it's important stuff.
Scott, where are you located?
Well, I'm in Los Angeles right now, but
Mhm.
as I mentioned, I do a lot of travel. So I was just in the I just did around the world: London, Dubai, Baku, Azerbaijan, Tokyo, and then Manila, where I've been training teachers how to teach acting using mostly the Meisner approach
Great.
that I learned. And so and many of them have now set up schools. So I'm literally able to go and work with them in schools that were created because we started this project of reaching out and finding teachers that wanted to learn an approach that was helpful for them and their students, and then to set up schools and promote them and build them. So it's been an amazing thing to watch what some of these folks have been able to create in countries around the world. Um,
Great.
yeah.
And he's going to be adding Italy to that one.
Oh,
I'm going to be adding. Well, I got 3 teachers now in Italy, so
oh, good.
yeah,
You'll be doing an Italian tour
we'll be definitely doing an Italian.
and
Um,
taking me. I'll
I
be
have
going there.
there's a playwriting friend I have, who is in Florence. Um, and she's a writer. She also has written a novel as well, but she's written several really raw plays. I did one of hers actually here. Um, it was called Pesach. It was a family play, and we did it on campus, and then we brought it to Atlanta and um, rented out the what the hell is the name of the theater? God,
Alliance?
nope, Del Hamilton's theater. What's going on?
We rented out a theater.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, anyway, so we brought it there as well, and she's applying for a position that's open here on campus in Italian classics, or something like that,
Ooh,
in the
nice.
Italian department. I said, Laura, you should apply for this, and so she has, and I don't know where she is in the process, but she's been here on campus as a guest lecturer. That's how I first met her, as a guest lecturer here, and then chatted it up and told her that I go to Cortona, and then we started that she would come down and see some of the plays, and then we collaborated on her piece. She's got another fabulous two-woman piece, very raw, about immigration,
Mm.
which I'd love to do, but I'm not doing that anymore. So anyway, it's so it's really hardcore and
Oh, perhaps you could send me the titles and I can, are they published or?
I don't think that is published.
Okay.
Yeah. But Laura Forti is her name.
Okay.
Forti. Laura. You could Google her and just see
Yeah.
what you come up with.
I know Ray. That's what they say, Francis.
Well, I think we have to wrap it up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, last
So,
word, Ray, or something. I mean, I just
well, what was your purpose in asking me to talk with you?
Well, I don't know who came up with this, but I think Scott and I, came up with we wanted to do something together. And I know so many wonderful artists. And, going back to our conversation, I love those relationships I have with people. And you are one of the people that, I respect fully as an artist and someone I've worked with and you've taught me. And um, yeah, I think you're our third person to interview. You're one of my first ones that I thought of. And, to be quite honest with you, I didn't know how extensive your resume was, but just as an artist and as a teacher, you were very influential in, my learning. So you were one of the first people that I thought of, and I thought, and you're such a nice person too. So I like nice
Thank
people.
you. Thanks. Thanks for that. Thank you.
uh, Ray,
And
yeah, go you for me.
yeah, Francis, where are you located right now?
I'm in Tennessee,
Okay,
Yeah.
not far away.
so not far away at all. Probably maybe 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ray,
perhaps Scott and I can come and visit and teach a Meisner class.
there we go.
Well, you'd have to talk to George about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
George was also an amazing teacher who's
Yes.
now the head of the program.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I used to love his classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that our inspiration was just to start talking with people
Yeah.
and recording them. So because maybe there's one little thing that you say that someone might hear that then
Yeah.
sparks and I I don't think we talk enough with each other. It's odd that sometimes I feel very lonely as an acting teacher. I mean, it's an odd sensation to go back to a hotel room and be by myself. And I was yesterday morning. I was on Zoom with a teacher in the UK and one in Australia, and the three of us are doing just we're actually doing some acting together just for fun, and just talking about. And I'm going, this is what we should always be doing. And
Yeah.
long as we're doing it, why wouldn't we record it and share it with other people? Because that is what we do. We share our hearts with other people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm so grateful that you were willing to share some of the things that you are experiencing and help us get inspired and insightful things that might be said occasionally by one of us if we have one of those moments where something comes out that's good. Um, but any last things that strike you from your life and this conversation?
Um,
That's a big order. I know that's like a
yeah,
little
yeah,
putting too much pressure on you.
um, I'm just altering my outlook in a natural way, nothing radical. I just lost a brother a couple of months ago, out of four there. So I got one brother left now. Um, and another good friend of mine is, yeah, he's got cancer and it's not looking good. Um, but I've had prostate cancer and I got through that. And I felt, well, I have a solo show. Um, that's about 50 minutes long, and I just performed it in Providence, Rhode Island, a few weeks ago, and I did 3 performances of it there. And I give it out free. I don't ask for money. Um, so if you've got a venue and you want to, it's a show about China. Stay physically present, even at this age, and preparations to do that. I'd be glad to do it give it to you for free. And if you had an audience or a theater that wanted to look at,
Wow, really?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So
Ray, what about a what about a live online performance?
I'm not sure that would work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just
wow,
thinking
that sounds amazing.
because I love the idea of being in the same room because that's we know how magical that is to be in the same room.
it is, and it's all personal. It's I'm me. I'm not a character, so
Yeah.
it's I think I got to be there.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you know anybody who's looking for something like that, there might be, I don't know, a senior citizen or organization nearby. It's not really it doesn't have to be about seniors at all.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, the audience. Um, so
Yeah.
anyway, just tossing it out there.
Nice.
And if you want to read the script, I'll certainly be happy to send it to you.
that would
Yeah.
be wonderful. Yeah.
So, so think about that. Thank you guys so much. I'm flattered that you thought of me, and I love talking to you, and I wish we could now go get some lunch.
I
I
know.
know, me too.
So,
Ray, you've moved my heart. Thank you so much for
oh, thank you, and thank you, Francis, for thinking of me.
Yeah.
You look great, and you guys are doing well. Great.
hanging in there. Hanging in
All
there.
right. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Ray.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.
And